I know where there's some, right here in the hall, clerk.
No, Molly, not in there. I have
Hi, welcome back. Here's the culprit. It's the lift pin. It has a main body, a spring, and then a top part. And this is the part actually up here that touches the bottom of the tone arm to lift it up. The spring, I suppose, is to keep tension between this threaded part. This part threads into the base, the main shaft. And I suppose the spring is to keep tension on that so that it doesn't move, but still allows you to adjust this up and down so you can set the correct record height. So that's what I was stuck with, trying to figure out what to do. A quick search on the internet showed that unless I wanted to pay an outrageous price for a whole turntable, I wouldn't be able to find that, and I'll keep looking. So I was faced with the idea of making one. So let me show you what I did. I made a new push rod. It's right there. Let me get it out of there and we'll see what it looks like. I loosened the tone arm from the pivot. And here's our new tone arm lifter assembly. I'll keep looking for a real one. I mean, this is just made because I could make it, I guess. But it should work. So what I did was find some threaded spacers. And these guys are 1/4 inch round. The hole right here that this fits into is a 1/4 inch hexagon. So that's a hexagonal hole. And the original one of these, this guy, has hexagonal sides on the core. I've ordered some hexagonal brass stock, and I might see if I can have a friend who has a drill press, might be able to do me some tap holes on either side. But this is fundamentally, this is two threaded spacers with a piece of brass screw in between and some Permatex thread locker to hold it together, and it's very stout. Then this is another piece of brass here threaded into this end and polished off so it moves smoothly, and this is the end that goes down in there and fits that sprocket. We'll look at that later. And then up here, this one is just threaded in with no Loctite, but it has a set nut so I can tighten it in place. I've got it about where it should be. Goes in there like that. Tone arm fits on there, and it sits at the current location of the sprocket. It's holding the tone arm above the level of the record, as it should. So that this part might require some adjustment, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to refasten the tone arm in place. You can't get this out without the tone arm in place. It does wobble. Nothing I can do about that for the moment. But I'll remount this where it belongs, and then we'll start to talk about the synchronization of everything that's under this deck. As one astute viewer pointed out, I had not synchronized it. I took the chain off and moved everything around, and I put this back together without synchronizing it. And I knew that. I just wanted to make sure that everything seemed to be back where it was. I knew I would have to do the synchronization step again. It's easier without having to take the chain off. You just loosen the chain tensioner, then the chain will slip off this gear and you can adjust everything else. You have to set this up in a particular way so that each mechanical part is in one position, and then you adjust so that that arrow touches that arrow right there, or points at that arrow. And this arm, which is connected to the changer, is in the right spot so that it changes records when it should. It shouldn't change records and drop a new record on the tone arm while the old record is still being played. That's just bad form. So, let me, and the instructions, you about can't do this. I suppose if you're some kind of mechanical whiz kid, you could, but I certainly can't do this without the instructions on where all these parts need to be prior to synchronization. So let me set all this up per the instructions, and then I'll talk about what I did. My apologies. I shot a bunch of video and then lost it all somehow. I've never done that before, so I've often wondered when I see other YouTube folk say the video went walkabout. I didn't know it happened. What happened to me, but it did. Anyway, so this photograph right here will have to serve as our indicator of how to synchronize this turntable. There are three things to pay attention to. One is the synchronization, the selector sprocket, which is this guy right here. These arrows have to align pretty closely. That's pretty closely. But they form a triangle. There's a line from here to a pin right here. That's the reset stud. And when this is all synchronized, the reset stud is about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in front of this plate right here. This plate right here is the reset lever. So the triangle is this, these are aligned. That pin is about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch in front of the reset lever. And the other thing is down here is the clutch pawl. Right here is right just touching the clutch trip lever, which is this guy right here. So when those three things are aligned, 1/4 of an inch above there, just touching there, and aligned here, you've done synchronization. And it's kind of interesting. The first things you do is you line these two up. You loosen the chain tightener. You line these two up. Then you set the timing sprocket, which is this big guy here, so that that pin right there, the reset stud, is just in front of that. Then you come over here and you remove the keeper that's on this sprocket right here, the chain drive sprocket, and you lift that up toward you in this shot, and then rotate the clutch assembly so that the pawl, this piece right here, is right just touching that. Then you set this back down. And the reason for that is that the clutch assembly is driven by this sprocket right here. So what you're doing when you're lifting it up toward you is you're removing it away from the clutch assembly so that you can rotate the clutch assembly correctly. So that's the synchronization process. A line here, 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch in front of the reset stud, and the pawl is set there. Put it all back together, tighten the chain, make sure nothing is drifted out, because when you do tighten the chain, you'll see that things pull one way or the other. But that's what you have to deal with. So that's the process of synchronizing this particular turntable. And if you do it, I hope it works for you. Hello. We've made some progress, and I'll walk you through where we are to date. I've built a new arm lifter, a replacement arm lifter, a temporary replacement arm lifter that actually seems to work, which is fine. in the schematic for this turntable, if I can dig it out of here, this is the solenoid that launches the whole business of resetting the mechanism so that it will drop another record, lift the tone arm, put the tone arm down in the proper place, and play the record until it catches on the inside. The deal is this solenoid, unlike another model, very similar model but a different model, this solenoid is powered from the chassis. It picks up its voltage, its activation voltage, from the light bulb circuit, the dial indicator winding on the power transformer. So it's a little hard to duplicate. I've got one dummied up with a battery, but it needs it twice in automatic succession, and I can't do it manually. But what I can do is demonstrate for you the mechanism by hand. I can rotate the what's the name of that? I can rotate the selector sprocket by hand and show you what happens when it's all running. And then I can show you the turntable, the platter itself turning as well. So let's start with just making this record fall down. The selector sprocket back here in the corner, right down here, does the bulk of the work. So I'll just turn that. I don't know if you can see. Let me reposition you. Yeah, if you keep your eye right there, that cam will come out and push the record off the stack as this rotates. And that works very nicely. And now we're going to switch our attention to the tone arm, which now gets swung over and dropped down onto the record by the replacement lift pin. It's not quite, this needs adjustment. It's not coming down in exactly the right spot. Then I can show you the spinning platter. There's no needle in here, but normally it would get over here to the eccentric in here and trip that solenoid again if we were getting power full time. Lift this up, switch it back over here, and if there was another platter, drop it. If there wasn't another platter, this particular version plays that last record over and over and over again until you get tired of it and shut it off. So the mechanism seems to be working. This where this head comes down on the record is adjustable. There's a set screw under there that takes care of that. The other progress is here with our, let me back up again, here with our 33 1/3 setting. Got that working. Another bit of missing video. Oh well. Doesn't matter. The 33 1/3 didn't work well until I replaced the belt, the little drive belt that was down under there, with a fresh one, and now it works just fine. The reason we can't test the turntable any further is it's so dependent on the chassis. Both for providing voltage for the record changer and for providing its interesting amplification for the two Zenith turntable, or rather tone arm pickup assemblies. Neither of those work like magnetic or any other method you might think would be reasonable. So we won't really know if those are working until we get the turntable attached to the chassis, and we won't do that until the chassis is done. So that's it for this series on this kind of remarkable and strange Zenith twin Cobra turntable. So until next time, when we're working on the chassis, Take care. We'll see you.
The makers of Johnson's Wax.